warm welcome to Podful of Saints on Wednesday, the 11th of January, 2023, Series 4, Episode 25. Who had have thought we'd get this far? And the reason we have, because we've got quality like Jake Ellacott. Evening, Jake.
I was just going to remark how professional that introduction was. For anyone wondering, you can turn down your brightness if Dave's kit has offended you. But otherwise, hello, everyone.
It's not the kit, it's a reflection from another camera. Evening, Lee. How are you doing?
Fellas, I'm sensing a very antagonistic approach to both of your verbs today. Come on, boys. Come on. Let's keep it civil. Let's keep it nice. Keep it polite.
Don't blame you dressing up like that, Lee. It's a bit fresh out there, isn't it? A bit wet and windy. Right, wet and windy. Just about sums up last Saturday's performance. 2-1 defeat for the Saints away to Oxford City. Oxford now, a club we played more than any other in league games following that one. 120 odd or something. I don't know, lost interest.
That's a great stat, by the way. That's a great stat. I would never have thought that, to be honest with you.
At a club also we scored most goals against in all competitions and league games.
You would have thought it'd be someone like Hendon or Enfield, the fact we played them so many times. And
Hendon and Enfield only joined the Ishmael League in the 1960s. Right. Oxford, we can go back to our Athenian League days, and Dulwich the same sort of time as well. So you're going back to the early 20s there. So they had about 40 years start on Enfield and Hendon. Anyway, what happened to those two clubs?
Well, you learn every day is a school day, isn't it? You know, you learn something new, don't we, Jacob?
We do indeed.
I agree with Nobby with his magnificent post-match interview. We were second best for an hour, all over the pitch, and were deservedly trailing. But he made that triple substitution. My goodness, that game was stood on its head in a split second, wasn't it? That's how it seemed to me by the side of the pitch. What was it like from behind the goal?
Pretty wet.
yeah.
Pretty wet. It was a game we could have won, even though we didn't really deserve to, if I'm honest. A couple of sloppy goals led to them getting their noses in front. And, if there's a positive I can take out of the game, is that when you get Jeffers and Banton didn't really contribute as much as they have done in previous games. Mitchell, let's face it, he had a shocker on Saturday. Without those three turning up to the table, we've still got enough in our squad to remain competitive within fixtures now. You know, I mean, what an absolute thunderous goal. I mean, you know, it looked even better on the highlights than it did in real life. Yeah. But I thought we had something about us. But to be honest with you, Tabs, their goals were, you know, just sloppy. It wasn't the matter of them sort of carving us open. It was just we didn't get the tackles in. We let them have too much time on the ball, and ultimately we were chasing the game from there on in.
Yeah, warning signs were there, weren't they? The first goal came deep in first half injury time, but within a minute and a half, Josh Parker, he got behind the defence. How he didn't score, hit the inside of the post, and it bounced across the goal, and we whacked it clear. And they did that 2 or 3 times, didn't they, before they took the lead? But as you say, Lee, we had enough about us. We created a few chances. We could have got level ridiculously before half time. You go along with all that, Jake?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a funny one, isn't it? You know, goals either side of half time are always going to kill you, aren't they? And the way we rallied back was really, really good. But yeah, we had chances, and those, you know, we talk about Mitch there. It's probably one of the performances I've seen from him in actually a Saints shirt. And he had those 2 really glaring opportunities, didn't he, first half? And we talk about, you know, being level at half time. We could have been 2-1 up at half time with Mitch's 2 chances there. So, you know, he's so reliable normally. That didn't quite go away. And yeah, those 2 goals punished us, and we just couldn't capitalise like they did. But like Lee said, you know, after the game, where a lot of us were talking, and there were still so many positives to come from it. And the fact that we pushed a good Oxford team so close, considering our sort of attacking third hadn't really turned up. Plenty of positives for me still.
Can I interrupt there briefly? We spoke about, you know, the fact we hold Mitch in quite high a regard. I wouldn't say that goal scoring is something which is that he can be proud of. His record isn't great. his all-round performances and his contribution to the team is good. But I mean, there's howlers. You have one howler in a match, fair enough, but the fella had two. And you got to be putting at least one of those away. The first one in particular, I mean, I don't know whether is the writing on the wall with Nobby getting the sort of players that he has been from league clubs now, better players. We spoke about, if you had said to us a year ago, someone's going to come in for MJ, or you know what I mean, and it's a case of, does Nobby now look at that thinking, right, I can't be having that again. That's costing us points now. Is Mitch an option to be sort of, put on the back burner, perhaps?
I don't think so, Lee. It's only last week we were praising Mitch. His contribution, how Shaun Jeffers is back in the goals again. Mitch has come back into the side. He had an off day. Those two he missed, he won't be happy about. But, Josh Parker and Josh Ashby, they missed two sitters down the other end as well. It happens. Mitch doesn't regularly miss chances as clear as that. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. We all have an off day. As you say, the other two as well, Banton and Jeffers had quite a day as well, which perhaps they were all due one because they've all done well lately and played a significant role in our recovery.
Yeah, good point. But I think it is quite telling, though. I mean, he's finding himself in those positions, which is great. And we were still playing good football in the process, which I think is another positive to sort of take out of the game, because we could have just panicked, and under previous regimes, chances are we would just bypass the midfield entirely. When I think the midfield was probably our strongest point on Saturday. The fact that our ball retention was quite high and the pace of the passing was really good, helped by a ridiculously slick pitch, granted. But the fact of the matter is we've got some good players there now, and we're not just relying on the usual suspects to get us out of the shite. So it's good.
I think it's true what you say, Jake. There were plus points to be taken, and they were in that last half hour, when the last 25 minutes when Nobby made the substitutions. It's funny, if you come away from a football match or almost any sports game, or you're watching a film, and the final bit of it, last half hour, wow, is good, you forget about what's happened earlier on. If it's the other way round, you go away fed up and depressed. Oh, they're losing it, not fit, this, that, and the other. But because we left on a high, really, everyone, all right, disappointed by the defeat, but they could see the improvement in that team. And we'll come on to Ryan Blackman. You mentioned it, Lee. What a goal that was, Jake?
Wasn't bad, was it, at all? I mean, superb finish. And what a way to introduce yourself to a very vocal Saints support on the day. Absolutely brilliant from him. And you can see, I think when we signed him on the Friday on loan from Concord, there's one or two sort of question marks, but I think you immediately saw his quality, of course, with the finish, but his quality on the ball and his contribution to us almost getting something from that game. He looks like a really good signing for me, and I think he could easily go straight into that team. And I think someone like Menash, I think could definitely be a bit under threat from Ryan coming in now.
Yeah, all three substitutions made their mark, didn't they? Glenn McConnell, 17 years old, but so positive. You wonder about Nobby. He made it on 65 minutes, which is earlier than we've been used to early in the season. He could have maybe gone 10 minutes earlier and said, look, we haven't had a reaction since half-time, and gone for it then. And you wonder what the outcome would have been, but it did bode well.
It's not as though we weren't creating chances in those last 25, though. We were still getting the balls in. There were a couple of glorious chances.
Yeah.
Cal had one at the back post as well. I think Jefferson had a header that he flashed wide. The chances were there. I think with bringing on three substitutions too early, you sort of run the risk of losing any momentum going into the final third of the game. So, yes, I get what you're saying, but don't forget as well, not wanting to labour a point, although I am, Nobby's still very young, a manager. He's still sort of finding out, the ins and outs of management himself. So, listen, it was a defeat. It could have been anything, that there were all results on the table there going into the last 20 minutes. So, but again, there's lots of positive to sort of take out of a defeat, and that wasn't always the case over the last 18 months or so, fellas. So Yeah, still some big pluses there for me.
The other sub we haven't mentioned yet is Joe Neal. He struggles for goals, even more than Mitchell Weiss. We know that. But the influence he's having down the flanks at the moment, and we saw it again Saturday, he's all right, impact player. He don't want to be an impact player. He wants to be starting. And if he keeps pushing like that, he's got a chance of getting in again soon.
I disagree.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is he was brought in as a striker to help relieve the pressure on Shaun. Unfortunately, I don't think Joe Neal is not a Conference South striker any more than I am a poet laureate. I think what you can say about Joe, and this is great to his testament, is that he's found himself a position now where he can influence the team. He's not a striker at this level. He's a very, very good squad player, and he'll come on. If Nobby saw any signs of him progressing in a striking role, he'd be starting. I think how many more times you want to flog that horse? I can't see Joe Neal starting unless get injuries now. But I'm happy to have him as an impact squad player, and he's adapted his game accordingly, hasn't he? You know, he's got a bit. I mean, his skill on the ball is good. His pace is excellent. Everyone loves a trier. Everyone loves a workhorse. But I think he's got a bit more about him than that. But to suggest he's pushing for a starting place in this lineup with the players that have got coming in now, I think it's going to be rough.
Well, he's good. He is now creating chances. So he's not a goal scorer, as you say there, Lee, and it doesn't look like he's going to become one anytime soon. But when we're chasing a game, perhaps it's the impact bit you mentioned before, he is good at coming on and doing that because he gets at defences and he just runs them and runs past them at the moment.
Yeah.
What would you do with him, Jake?
I think Lee's right. I think you've got to try and stick with him for now as an impact player. I know he doesn't want to be that, but I think he's earning himself that. And I think what's good about him is sort of two things. Earlier this season, we sort of identified that we did lack some depth in the wide positions. You know, Liam Sol, Romeo Akinola, etc., just haven't featured at all this campaign. Joe Neal is now providing that off the bench as a slightly different option, which is great. And also, second of all, he can play on both wings. He was on the left against Hemel when he had an impact, and he was on the right against Oxford City. Again, he had an impact. And it's important that we've got someone in the squad that can cover that. And, you know, these impressive performances when he's coming off the bench, that he can change games. And that's the main thing at the minute. And that is what we want. We need people that can come off the bench and change things. We didn't have that earlier in the season. Now we do.
One player who was out there Saturday, we didn't know whether he was going to be or not, although I think we'd all sort of thought he might be. Dylan Berry, a loan extended to the end of the season. I don't think I saw it announced on the website, but then you don't find news on our website. That's great news, and it's great news, isn't it? Because Michael Johnson is still a long way off. He's still getting so much trouble with his finger. They can't put a date on it now when he's coming back. So having Dylan Berry, that's not bad cover.
It's not bad cover, and I know that Jake and I were talking about this in the car on the way up. You know, the fact that Norwich have got a new manager, was there an option of them perhaps being recalled? But the thing is, this works for all parties. You know, if you start pulling people back from loan spells at this point in the season, it means, you know, there's something wrong at the parent club. Norwich are quite established. They've got some really good keepers there anyway, but also Norwich want to see Dylan progress as it is and develop accordingly. And he's getting everything he needs here at City. And ultimately as well, he's enjoying his football, which, you know, not too many players could say. You know, so that's a good thing. I mean, what an acquisition. Well done to everyone at the club for getting that over the line, because that, you know, it wasn't a given, was it? You know, let's face it. And as I spoke to you before, and when I spoke to a couple of the reporters, there were people looking at him. So let's just be grateful for the fact that he's a saint until at least May.
He's not the only one. Ryan Blackman, apparently, there were clubs looking at him. But as I think Concord intimated, he wanted a club closer to his home. He lives in Stevenage, so you wouldn't go there, would you? So this was ideal for him.
I think with Dylan, I echo Lee. It's absolutely brilliant for the club to get it to the end of the season as well. Didn't expect that. Absolutely superb. But yeah, Ryan, you know, he's highly thought of. I think we understand he was on contract at Concord. they obviously like him, and you saw in their social media posts they were sad to let him go, but obviously his personal situation has been absolutely devastating in the last year or so. And I think they felt they owed him that, to at least let him move closer for his family, etc., which is absolutely brilliant. I think we have to say well done to Concord for their part in that. And also, again, to the club and Nobby for getting Ryan in, because he already looks like a brilliant signing, which is what you want.
Do you see the Oxford game as cause for concern or just a temporary blip? We went into it, 7 wins, a draw and a defeat in the league, which isn't too bad.
Would you be concerned?
Not overly. A little bit worried, but a number of times Oxford got through quite easily and they should have had more goals, really. The only concern for me is the modern game. We allowed them to come at us to a degree because we were doing this tip-tapping around inside our box. Funny enough, but when the last half hour, when we got at them, we actually looked like we might score because, as I said last week, you're not going to score, keep passing across your own penalty area. I know it's a modern game, but it's horrible. It's
the modern game, but don't forget that set us in very good stead for the previous seven games. And you don't really sort of change a winning side, or at least the formation and the way you play. I think we had to be a bit more direct in the final third because we were trailing the game, and Oxford were panicking. They were panicking. They sat back so deep, and you talk about us inviting Oxford on. They were doing the exact same thing for the last 20 minutes. So it's tit for tat in terms of that. I don't think there's any real need for concern. I think the fact of the matter is, and I know you were playing devil's advocate earlier on, Tavs, but Nobby's post-match, you could sense his frustration. He said it wasn't good enough. And that's what you want to hear from your manager, even though we were almost close to snatching a point. Previously, we don't want to hear these cliche riddled post matches where that post match could have applied to any of the 30 under Ian previously. Nobby's got a fresh approach to it all. He says it how it is. It wasn't good enough. It's not what he expects from his players. But you know what? There's plenty of positives to come out of the game, despite the fact we didn't get the 3 points.
What did you two make of Oxford's time wasting? I had a phone call from a supporter, Dutchy, on Sunday, who seldom rings, and he was spitting blood about the tactics of going down all this time, supposedly injured. Everybody knows they're not injured. Referee's put in a hopeless position. It's just a time wasting, kicking the balls on at the end, of course, wasting more time. It was absolutely shameful, wasn't it? Canice Carroll was about the biggest offender, I thought, unfortunately. What did you two make of it?
Yeah, I think they did it a lot. I think there's one or two times that the ref just seemed to fall for it, didn't he? I think, an Oxford player a couple of times went down about 10 seconds after the ball had got away, and sort of you knew he's fine, and the ref just happily just let them play their games. So it's part of football nowadays, sadly. I mean, my bigger grudges with Oxford were, first of all, the floodlights, and second of all, the state of that pitch. All of it's bloody awful. But yeah, the time wasting, very annoying. But if we were doing it at the end of a tight game, I'm sure a lot of Saints fans would be more than comfortable with it. So it is what it is these days.
But the thing is, though, David, Dutchy, like yourself, is a hard man to please at the best of times. So the fact you can even see the numbers on his phone is testament as into how angry he actually was. He wanted to voice his concerns. You talk about trying to sort of con the ref. There was a couple of incidences in the first half where Jeffers was throwing himself around when no one really particularly near him. So you talk about the modern game, Dave. We were just as guilty of it in the first half in terms of trying to con the ref. Not necessarily time waste, but it's all part and parcel of it, mate. I'm afraid to say.
I totally agree, Lee. I won't support any player, City player, who time wastes, cheats, if you like, goes down holding his head. The player comes across to block his clearance and he goes down, I've been caught, whatnot, squealing like mad. I would never support any City player who does that when it's not genuine. And unfortunately, most of them nowadays are not genuine. It's rife in the game. Coaches tell their players to do it. It is horrible. You're cheating the people who are playing the players' wages for spectators. It's just absolute nonsense. But it ain't going to change because that's the way the modern world is, and it stinks at times. But there we go. But then we had that last 25 minutes, which raise the spirit somewhat.
Ah, dear me.
I don't know about you, Jake, but I think Mr. Tavener's got the devil in him today. I think he's just trying to entice something out of us to get us in trouble again. But,
what I will say is that I don't want to see us play on that pitch again this season. And then if we have to, I hope they've got the floodlights fixed by then. So, but there you go.
I don't think we're in the Oxfordshire Senior Cup, Jake, so you're probably pretty safe
Well, playoffs.
for that one. Oh, that's a good point, yeah.
Oh, playoffs, yeah. Are we in any cups, Dave, just so everyone's sort of aware?
Long gone, Lee, long gone.
Ah, right, there we go. Okay.
I think
It's a bugbear.
But before we finish this game, I think it's just so good, isn't it, that even after a defeat we can take all these positives. When earlier in the season, against someone like Oxford City, we'd just collapsed, wouldn't we, at 2-0? We'd have just fallen away, wouldn't have gone in, we wouldn't have tried, we just wouldn't have bothered. So still, I know, I'm sure people probably think we're being too positive today, but you've got to make the most of it. It's not often we can come away from a defeat still feeling like there's things to build upon.
The first thing to do double over us this season, and this coming Saturday we've got a chance to do one over Tonbridge Angels. They're not on a great run at the moment. Well, they 4 without a win, I think. We've already won down there. You'd fancy us to bounce back, I think. But can you see any changes to that side, bearing in mind what happened late in the game at Marsh Lane?
I mean, I can myself see Blackman coming in. That's the one for me that I can see. I don't know, Lee, what you think, if anyone else, or was it just Ryan?
I was going to say, I think Blackman comes in. Sunday probably could be the one to make way, but I think I can't call it at the minute because there's so many good players in and around on the fringes. Morel could come in as well. He might even start. The permutations are many. I hope he doesn't wholesale changes just on the. I mean, the last 20 minutes were good, but that was a result of us not being great in defence. In defence. So, and don't forget this side playing those tactics have got us where we are. 7 out of 8 or whatever it is. So I can't see him going mad, but I reckon Blackman probably is going to be the key one to come in.
Of course, Nobby's going to look at that team with an eye on Tuesday as well. We're away to Hungerford Town, so he's got 2 games in 4 days. So he might switch things around.
That's the beauty of it. We've now got a squad that can sort of start to handle that. If you look at that bench against Oxford on Saturday, there's a lot more depth on it than there had been in previous weeks. So as difficult as it is to be rotating players, to be honest, they haven't had a lot of games in the last few weeks. So I'm sure that the squad will be able to manage it. We're getting players back. Well, sort of some players are coming back, but also bringing players in. I think that the rotation won't be an issue at all.
Interesting if he gives that 17-year-old from Cambridge United, Glenn McConnell, a start in one of those 2, because he does look a fine prospect.
I mean, out of the 2, do you really want to be starting him at Hungerford on a Tuesday night on that pitch of theirs after the recent weather? I mean,
No.
in my mind, it would be more likely the game at Clarence Park, but I don't know.
God, what a good point, Jake. Bet make a note of that one.
Yeah,
He was due.
Right, the Tonbridge game. Going into it, we've got 149 players who have played 100 games for the club, or 100 or more. We've got one who's on 99, Harry Rawlins. At the moment, Shaun Jeffers and Kyran Wiltshire on 99. Play with 100th game on Saturday.
Perfect time for a hat-trick then, from both, obviously.
Dear me. And how many goals did Shaun Jeffers have in that time, Dave?
65.
It's not bad, is it?
Good ratio.
Yeah.
It's not bad, is it? Kyran Wiltshire's got 6, but he can claim 28 bookings as well.
This pod today is just stat heavy. I love it.
Yeah. But
they've over the last couple of years, they've been the backbone of the side, really, haven't they?
Oh, I mean, you could probably argue they're 2 of Ian's last good signings, weren't they? In a way, sort of Shaun and Kyran, both have been integral parts. But I think what was, when we signed them, they both had pedigree at this level, didn't they? And I think you can still see that stands out now. And both been great signings, and I hope they both stick around for a little bit longer.
Oh, beautifully put. Do you want to make a prediction for Saturday, Jake?
Do I have to?
No, you leave it blank. Be as close as your normal prediction.
I'll go 3-1 Saints. But I will say that Tonbridge, I think, last game they were 3-0 up at half time, drew 3-3 against a less than impressive Slough Town. So, I mean, the order of the day for me is, again, it's just got to be attacking football and go at them. They concede goals, just got to go at it from the start.
Slough have picked up a few points since they changed managers a few weeks ago. What about you, Lee? What do you fancy for Saturday?
Oh, what did you say, Jake? 3-1?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 2-0 Saints. I think there's gonna be I think I like the fact that we're at home next, and it gives Blackman a chance to sort of shine. Although that said, though, you talk about the Hungerford game, our pitch was heavy, really heavy against Hemel. So it's not a given the fact we're going to play conducive, free-flowing football, but we'll see.
See, Dover Athletic got rid of Andy Hessenthaler as manager.
Yeah.
They lost to Hungerford last Saturday. It's Hungerford that ended a run of 5 without a win. You got to be positive for that one. I'd imagine you two both going for victories there.
Yeah, I mean they're rooted at the bottom, aren't they? And I say one on Saturday, but the problem is Hungerford on a Tuesday night. It's just that the thought of that just scares me. I'll go 2-1 Saints.
Yeah, as usual. Oh, that's 3-1 last time. Yeah, okay. Lee,
I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Now, hear me out.
Oh, God.
Just because it is, as Jake said, Hungerford on a Tuesday night. I mean, that should be on every single Halloween card across the country. Just put the words Hungerford Tuesday night, and then that is it. I mean, it's going to be horrendous down there, isn't it? But I will quite happily come away with any point of, that would be fantastic.
I bet their pitch is a bit damp at the minute.
Moist is the word we're looking for today, Jacob. Speaking of which, mate, how wet did you get on Saturday? That rain was coming in, mate. Absolute horizontal.
It was awful. But before we move on, I want to say how superb the Saints support was in that pouring rain. Absolutely dreadful. Saints fans, new and old, young and old, absolutely come together to try and get behind the lads. And in that second half, it was absolutely superb, wasn't it, Lee?
Even the hoodies, even the little hood rats were there, weren't they? Jumping up and down, making noise. God bless them. Beautiful.
And you mentioned last week, all in the face of train strikes, issues getting there, terrible weather. Absolutely superb.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the away games are often that much sweeter, especially if you win. And the fact there were train strikes, and the fact that there were so many Saints fans there. You have to have invested your whole day in getting to that game. At home, you can and ah a little bit. Should I go? Should I not go? There were, Taz. How many Saints fans do you reckon were there on Saturday?
I didn't really count. I could just hear this noise.
Yeah.
We must have had at least 60, 70, maybe more.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind, the crowd was 400 they gave it as because they get very little support. We may have actually had more than that thinking about it.
I would say
most of them were in Ian Hall's car, weren't they?
And it was a tight squeeze, I have to say.
It was indeed.
Mrs. Hall did an absolutely sterling job in navigating the M40. But getting back to the fans, it was good to see John McGowan. I was there with his brother. And I think it might have sort of shocked him a little bit to sort of see just how invested some of the people are about going to away games now. And what I would like to see, I don't know whether this is possible, that's not necessarily even for the trust, it's more for the club to sort of start maybe working alongside the trust and getting some subsidised travel to these games when it's going to be difficult for some fans to get to, because there's and this is just me personally, I sometimes believe the club overlook what it is to be a non-league fan sometimes, following your team up and down the country. They're very invested in the here and now match day Clarence Park experience, but that's not the be-all and end-all of supporting St Albans City. It's about following your side home and away. And I would like to see the club work with the trust about getting some bigger coaches, earmark some fixtures where we know it's going to be either train strikes or distance or time of the year, whatever it may be. Because the thing is, there's no point having a minibus if it's going to sell out 2 weeks before the fixture. That's not, otherwise it's jobs for the boys. And the trust and or the club aren't doing their role properly. It's about giving every single fan the biggest opportunity to support their club. Now, I'm not saying we would have got any more fans at Oxford, but there's certainly some nuggets of gold to be pulled out of the fact that there were so many fans behind the goal at Oxford. It was pissing down for an hour and a half, and everyone got absolutely drenched. But the spirits still remain quite high. And as long as we're playing good football, people are going to return and people are going to continue to support the Saints. It's not just about Clarence Park. It's about the club you support up and down the land every single week. And I think that there's scope there for at least a conversation to be had. No one wants the club or the trust to lose money. Far from that. But their roles are to facilitate the supporters getting to watch the games and getting to watch the team and supporting the team. And I do believe that there is a conversation to be had from the trust and the club to sort of try and make that happen.
I totally agree with you, Lee. If you look at the focus on the website, on the Twitter, everything is geared towards home games, and not enough is given to away support, which club players love. And supporters, away days are far better than home games, really. The atmosphere Saturday is better than anything we get down the park most days. And you're right, every encouragement should be given to getting as many supporters as possible to away games.
If I even knew someone who's involved on the trust that can, instigate that conversation.
He's a bit quiet, isn't he? Can you think of anybody?
Hey, I'm just being inspired by both of you being so positive. No, absolutely. And I'd say anything like that, I don't know, Lee will, raise it with the trust, because that is the point of the trust. So yeah, I'll definitely raise that, and I'm sure Lee will to sort of discuss and look at, because it's definitely something that should be considered at least, because there's plenty of other clubs in this division that do help their supporters clubs, supporters trusts with organising coaches and away support. And as you say, if we get to the playoffs, that could easily be away from home, and you don't even get to the playoffs without winning some away games every season. So
if I wasn't in such a positive mood, given the fact that we look around the other teams in our division and in non-league in general, to say that what we offer our fans in terms of away travel, if I wasn't being so positive, I could say it was embarrassing. But I'm not going to say that. I'm just going to say the fact that, there's conversations to be had. Because following your team away is an integral part of being a true supporter.
Right, you made a point about Bullpit Lane on a midweek. We won in the League Cup there in 1988 midweek, Tuesday. We've only had one league game there midweek. It's a Monday in 2018, and we lost 3-1. Do you want to revise your predictions? Too late. There we go. This coming Saturday, the referee is a guy called Neil Pratt. You can do whatever jokes you like about match officials there, but first time we've had him, and we wish him well.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
I do, actually. Match officials do. I don't go along with the criticism which they get. Apart from that lines from me the other week, he deserved whatever he got. But I think the criticism they get is from players, who, most of them probably don't even know the laws of the game properly, who just want to always appear bigger than the referee, which and they make their referee's job impossible. So my sympathy is actually with the match officials.
Oh, while Dave's in this mood, I just want to ask Dave, what are your thoughts on Glenn McConnell's shin pads?
Ridiculous. He's supposed to wear them. Laws of the game. He's supposed to be wearing shin pads. I don't know why the referees are letting him get away for his own good. He should be doing it, but
you're not having any on there?
No, the last couple of games, or 2 games he played, doesn't seem to have done.
I wouldn't be shocked if you found that he had some very, very small ones on.
I was going to say,
which do exist now, but I just wanted.
But you've got to pull your socks up as well. You're supposed to have your socks pulled up. Mind you, the way the players cut them into bits now. I don't know. They cut them in the back of the legs. They cut the foot off.
Oh no!
Good Lord.
Fashion tips from D Tavener. I love him this pod.
Yeah. They stopped doing it if they had to pay for them instead of the club. So that put an end to it.
Oh my God! And on that delightful note.
Right, good luck to Shaun and Kyran for their 100th game Saturday, and good luck to the Saints in both games as well.
Good stuff. And if you want to get in touch with us, Jacob's going to quickly give you the contact details.
Yep, at Podful of Saints on Twitter, and the email address will be listed below.
Don't look so despondent when you give that out. We want people to, embrace, and we want people to, connect.
I didn't mean to.
No, don't email us. Please don't email us. It was good, Tavs. It was good to see Webbo at the game on Saturday. He spoke very highly of you, and at no point did he suggest you were somewhat reserved in your payment towards the stats website.
Oh yeah. We don't just do this for free. Doing this costs us some money, but there you go. It's a sort of thing clubs should be funding, but there you go. And yes, it was good to see Webbo in his once every 5-year appearance.
Oh dear. Well,
on that note,
we will see you all again next week. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye bye.
Cheerio.